Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome back to another podcast. I believe this is the third one in the series. And today I have almost sort of planned out what I want to say, which is a new thing for the series. Usually I'm very disorganized. So I've also tried doing a little bit of a different setup as well with the microphone, so hopefully it should sound more clearer so you can hear my lovely vocals. And hear me slurp my coffee as well, which is always nice. So I've got a few topics we're going to touch on today. And I've actually got up some articles and stuff so we can have a bit more of an informed discussion on it. So the first thing that I want to mention, or I want to talk about, is WhatsApp, which I'm sure a lot of people use. I'm sure those of you that are listening also use that as well. I myself use it. WhatsApp have now implemented a feature where you can tell if the messages that you're receiving are forwarded on or if they're actually written by the person who has sent them. So this was a bit of a controversial topic in India, as there was an incident that went on with, apparently, supposedly false reports of child abductions. And it just allowed this spread of the data to get across a lot quicker with being able to forward messages on to presumably, hundreds of people at a time. But I don't know. You can have a group chat of 100 people and put a message in there. But I guess if it's something that's forwarded on, it sounds like it's come from a legitimate source, from one person to the other. It spreads a lot quicker. But in the modern age we live with, obviously, I don't know, if information does travel. Those of you that remember the London riots, of course, WhatsApp, BlackBerry Messenger, was used that was the the use of the messaging platform. That was a messaging platform used by the people that were conducting or trying to conduct the riots. And it's because it had, because it's got peer-to-peer encryption, and it's difficult for the authorities to get hold of. Same sort of thing. I mean, if anything, it's more so now because of the peer-to-peer encryption with the WhatsApp offer. Although a lot of other messaging apps do as well. I believe you can do it in Facebook Messenger, for example. You can set up a conversation which has peer-to-peer encryption as well. And that way everything is obviously secure, or way more secure than it could otherwise be. And so I mean, it's nice. Obviously, it's better. It is more visibility to the messages that you're receiving. If you are receiving something that has been, forwarded on by so many people, then it obviously gives you more reason to, gives you more insight as to the origins of the message. And so I mean, I don't know. It seems a bit of not a non-story, because obviously it is quite serious, but it's only a small feature. Which I guess if they'd have had reason to before, they could have implemented it before now. But I suppose such is the way it goes. So moving on from less technology to something that is quite prevalent over here in the UK, something that at least I myself find to be quite... I'm trying to think of the correct word, although it eludes me right now. But I feel very strongly towards the idea of Brexit, which is, of course, what this topic is. So, as you know, we've had, those of you that have been paying attention, we've had the Chequers deal, which outlines the government's position on negotiating with the EU, which has been mostly agreed by government. Several amendments have gone through, a couple of them have not. Still has to go through the House of Lords, I believe, before that is ratified. But, of course, that position the deal will change because the negotiations with Europe haven't yet taken place. Now, to a lot of people, myself included, they feel as though that it's gone too far away from what would be a meaningful Brexit. And it will only be further diluted down once we get into negotiations with the EU. Now, the more and more I read about it, and the more I realise what's in there, you see Boris Johnson stepping down, David Davis stepping down from their cabinet positions, and you realise that we are probably better off at this point, geared up for having a no deal. Now, we've got a lot of stories in the press regarding the no deal, So no deal has suggested that households would be nearly £1,000 worse off with no deal. I'm just not 100% sure how they've actually managed to work that out. I mean, if we had no deal, we wouldn't have to give the EU up to £60 billion, which would be advantageous. We'd go back to WTO rules, and we'd be able to charge more for goods coming in. We'd also get a tariff tax on our own products, although we're likely to have at least come up with some sort of agreement there. £960 is the number that the Independent are quoting. Alright, okay. The exact size of the annual impact would be between £245 and £960. So they've obviously sensationalised it as well, to an extent. I'm still struggling to see where they have got these figures from and what they are using. Okay, doesn't actually say. Yeah, no, it's just the words of the Independent, or whoever wrote this article for the Independent anyway. So, Sebib Khan wrote this one. So, so people seem to, definitely, well, the consensus is for a lot of people that it will be worse off initially. I don't think I would necessarily argue that. I feel like whenever there is change, whenever there is turmoil, especially in the markets, stock markets such as they are, economies will face a downturn. The EU economy will also face a downturn as well, let's not forget. But, moving on from just the cost, if you said to me it's going to cost you £300 more a year to live, but Britain will be out of the EU, have the advantages that comes with that, be able to forge its own future where my vote at the ballot box actually matters, then yeah, I'm willing to pay that, because that's a small price to pay. What's the quote? Freedom is not free, which usually involves, some grandiose battle cry. But in this instance, it's a fact of, if we have to pay for it, then we'll have to pay for it. I personally believe that there's a huge amount of opportunity coming out where we could actually make a difference in our society, in the way we live, in how we produce goods, and etc. And assuming that the right decisions are made, Britain could be highly profitable, and we'd actually face a lot of advantages. And if a sensible deal with the EU is done, where it's focused upon, trade, good-natured agreement, then I don't see really what the issue is. It's like, well, I watched a documentary the other evening, and it eludes me the name of the member of the European Parliament, but she was fairly high up, and her effective words were, the UK belongs to the European Union. Now, that is a soundbite. Now, don't get me wrong, her English may not be the best, and it may not be the most thought-through comment, but I truly believe that that is their opinion there. And I don't know, it screams of some sort of overarching, there's this divine right. It's a bit like England have a divine right that we used to feel to, win the World Cup, be good at everything, and, dominate all sporting events or anything that has a competitive nature. And I feel like the European Union has that similar thing with its member states. They are member states. They are the states of Europe. They're the states of the European Union. They're no longer individual countries as such. And that more and more is eroded away. So for me, I feel as though we have to do the whole hog. I don't feel as though no Brexit deal would be absolutely horrendous. And if that's only the cost, between £240 and £960, it's a lot of money. Do not get me wrong, depending on which households that would affect, if it is indeed correct. The multinational consulting firm Oliver Wyman, apparently. There we go, I managed to find it. I didn't actually read the article, I just skimmed across. So, I suppose it's one of them, you have to look at what are... The problem is, in order to be able to gain a balanced view on these things, you have to go in and do the research. So, I should go in, look at Oliver Wyman and work out where their allegiances lie. Are they, partially, do they have any connections to the European Union? Are they funded by it? Are they funded by, whatever? Where do their interests lie, and what sort of spin do they want to put on it? I don't know. I don't know the company that well. I'm just on their website, but I can't see anything of any nature. I believe they're American based, so chances of them having any affiliation with the EU is low, but you never know. Anyway, there you go. A management consultancy company. So not necessarily economists. Anyway, I'm getting too bogged down with the whole Brexit deal, the Brexit thing. So yeah, just my thoughts on it at the moment as to where we stand, and my overarching thoughts as well. Moving on to an article by Waypoint Vice, which is in regards to Total War 3 Kingdoms. It was a bit of a... To be fair, it is quite a balanced article, and at the minute, there's obviously lots of stuff we don't know about it. So one of the things I wanted to pick up on was they were talking about the historical accuracy. Now, I had this in one of my previous Total War videos regarding historical accuracy, regarding troop types and that sort of stuff. So one of the things he mentions is that archers can fire really far in this game, and they were shooting fire arrows as well, which of course is a big debate, or it's not really a big debate. Fire arrows were not a thing, simple as that. But they're good to they give you more strategic options, and they're widely accepted as being okay in video games. So in the interview with Creative Assembly have confirmed that they are in fact elite units. If you go back and watch the gameplay trailer, you'll see them in there, and that is why they can fire so far. Now, especially with the romantic mode in the Three Kingdoms, it is really, I can't really stress this enough, it is focused purely on the generals themselves, on their abilities, on their relationships with other generals, on their standing in the time, and how all that melds together. It's really less about troops, tactics, although that will be in there, but I'm guessing that potentially, unit-to-unit battles may well be shorter, effectively, even though we've heard that they're going to be pretty average in terms of length of battle. But hopefully that is because of the more interaction between the generals, more to do with tactics, less to do with troop types. I think that's where it seems to be going. So, nevertheless, it's an interesting spin for the series. It's halfway between a historical Total War and halfway between a fantasy one like Warhammer. So, that's at least where I sit on the matter. I mean, I'm obviously very excited to play it. So, as and when more information comes out about it, I am ready to receive it. And the final topic that I want to touch on is the topic of VR. So, I was watching one of Gamers Nexus's videos today, and Luke from Float Pain, or Linus Tech Tips, Tech Tips, not Tick Tips, was on there, and they were discussing whether VR is dead. Now, for sure, it is definitely not. I think PlayStation plays a huge help in that, and the fact that the VR prices are now extremely, sensible, and what you get is really, I was really impressed with the PlayStation VR, having had the Oculus Rift and having been on the Vive. When I did go on the PlayStation VR, I was expecting to really not like it, or not like it, but notice there are obvious flaws. Now, of course, it isn't as good. There's, just no competition there. Much the same way as the majority of games that come out on the PC and on consoles are better on PC. It's just, technically, it's better. And yeah, so what I say, I was surprised by it. But the point that I've heard made in my own life, and that was discussed in that, is that there's no killer app, there's no killer game, there's nothing that says, "Oh, I have to have VR for this, for that." So when I got VR, was there anything that I wanted? When I got VR, there was nothing that I specifically wanted to play. Having looked at the different games that were out, you've got Arizona Sunshine, Robo Recall on the Rift anyway. You've got Skyrim, which I didn't realise was going to be as good as it was, and you've got Fallout 4 in VR. Fallout 4 VR is not the best by any stretch. Skyrim, on the other hand, very good. Robo Recall, probably one of the best games on VR, and Arizona Sunshine is also very good as well. So there are games there that are good, solid games. But there's nothing that says I have to have a VR for this. I must have a VR for that. You know, they've made this blockbuster game that is only VR compatible, and therefore I have to have it for this reason. And that is the big issue facing VR. It's not that it's not necessarily accessible. You know, you've got 80 million people with PS4s. I could be wrong on the numbers, but it's around that number. And you've got the potential to sell 10 million VR units, I'd have thought, because people who are into that gaming and into their technology are going to be into VR. And the PlayStation experience is actually pretty competent, to be honest. But it just depends on how it advances as well, because it's all right people throwing money into the actual hardware itself. You know, we end up getting 8K screens, you know, in VR, and we get, you know, gloves that have haptic feedback on it that, you know, so we can, if we're, I don't know, playing a handball simulator, we actually, when we grab the ball, it feels like we're grabbing a real physical object. You know, all that sort of advancement is nice, but where's the fun? And that's the big thing. So I have sold my Oculus Rift. In actual fact, Joe bought it off me, so I no longer have the VR. And it's just because I didn't really play on it. I didn't get my use out of it, to be honest, as I did when I first got it. And I feel like it's one of those things, you really do want to have a go on it. You want to see it, you want to experience it, and it blows you away. If you haven't yet had a go, by the way, anyone that's listening, I would suggest finding someone that's got one or attending an event where there is access to one, because they are, yeah, really outstanding bits of kit. Whether they're dead or not, I don't know. They're in a lull for sure, and yeah, it needs something. It needs a spark to get it going. And I feel as though something really big came out that made it necessity. You know, it's a bit like, well, it's a bit like Luke was saying. They haven't got their Halo, they haven't got their Gears of War, their Crash Bandicoot, their Spyro. You know, the VR world doesn't have its must-have. You know, in the same way the Switch had Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey. Don't know if you'd count the new Pokemon game in that, but it has that, and there's a reason people go out and buy the Switch just to play that. So anyway, I'll leave that thought there. Let me know what you guys think down below, if you've had a go on the VR, how you think it's developed. This one's been a bit longer than usual, mainly because I actually had topics to talk about, and I actually sort of knew vaguely what I wanted to talk about. But hopefully the sound quality's been a bit better than it has been previously. My voice is starting to go after talking straight for so long. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.